Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about frequent absences that military families can experience. This video is presented by the Bagotville Military Family Resource Center, most known as the MFRC. Today we will look at different aspects of frequent absences and give you some tips to make these absences a little easier to handle. To start, we have the public affairs officer of the second wing of Bagotville who has agreed to share an interview with us to explain the pace of the second wing. Indeed, the second wing is often called to leave and leave very quickly. Sometimes their departure is not planned in advance. Therefore, the public affairs captain has agreed to share an interview with Major Menard, who is the deputy commander of Unit 2 OSS, to talk a little about their experience and to answer some questions that families may have regarding frequent and last minute absences. I will let you listen to the interview, which was conducted in audio format.
Hello, I'm Captain Nabil Alou, Public Affairs Officer at 2 Wing Bagotville. As an expeditionary wing, 2 Wing is unique within the Royal Canadian Air Force. But what does expeditionary mean? It means that we must always be ready to carry out missions in Canada and around the world, sometimes at a very short notice. It also means that members of 2 Wing must maintain a high level of operational readiness in 3 of its units: 2 Mission Support Squadron, 2 Operational Support Squadron, and 8 Air Communication and Control Squadron. As a result, members of 2 Wing are among the first to be called for various types of Canadian Armed Force operations. This unique reality, characterized by rapid and frequent deployment, certainly has an impact on the families of military members. The chain of command is aware of this and ensures that our members are ready for all eventualities, working closely with the Military Family Resource Center and various points of contact at Canadian Forces Base Bagotville. The contribution of 2 Wing to Royal Canadian Air Force operations both in Canada and internationally are significant, and the members of 2 Wing are respected and valued for their professionalism and their dedication. But without the support of military families, this wouldn't be possible, and we sincerely thank you for your support. We'll now speak with Major Julien Ménard, Deputy Commander of 2 Operational Support Squadron and a proud father with many deployment experience. Hi, Major. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your deployment experience throughout your career?
Hi, I'm Major Julien Menard. I have about 20 years in the Royal Canadian Air Force, and I have 2 young children and a spouse. So I've deployed quite a bit within these 20 years. I first deployed when I was in the Aurora community, which is an airplane that does maritime and land surveillance. I deployed in Kuwait for operation in Iraq. I have multiple deployments for counter-drug operation in the Caribbean. I also have multiple other operations throughout the planet. Now that I'm at 2 Wing, I also had multiple opportunities to deploy, especially for evacuation of Canadian citizens abroad to evacuate them out of conflict zone. I deployed 2 years ago for evacuation in Sudan. I deployed last year for evacuation in Haiti. I also have deployments domestically to help Canadian in Newfoundland with floods.
Perfect, thank you. So, why might a military member be called to deploy very quickly? What type of operation would require such a rapid deployment?
So 2 Wing has a very unique nature where we manage crisis around the world, which means we deploy quickly. And these type of operation are, like I mentioned earlier, for evacuation of Canadian citizenship out of conflict zone. We also deploy for humanitarian assistance, humanitarian crisis from disasters like hurricane, tsunami, and things like that. And we also deploy domestically to help Canadian from forest fire, floods, or things of that nature.
Perfect. What would be the average deployment duration at 2 Wing, and why is there a maximum duration for deployment?
Because we manage crisis, our deployments are short. They're quick, but they're short. So we're talking here about 3 weeks to 2 months deployment. Yes, these operations could go for longer than 2 months. That being said, if it goes for longer than 2 months, coming back to your question about the max amount of time, we would have a discussion with that member, see what his family situation is, see if he wants to stay, and consider other factors as well. But we would bring someone else to replace that member after 2 months.
Perfect. How can I contact my spouse chain of command in case of an emergency? Is there a point contact, and does this point contact change with each deployment?
So that's a very good question, and I think that's a question that's very important. How do you reach your chain of command of the member that's being deployed? There's two main ways to do that. First way is to know who your spouse supervisor is and have that phone number. So if there's an issue at home or something that's necessary to communicate, I would call that person first, and that person will be able to take action as required. The other option is we have a duty phone that's monitored 24/7. There's someone on the line. Yes, that person's going to change, but there's someone that will take your call, will be able to pass that to someone that will be able to take action. So those are the two main way to reach a chain of command in case you need it.
Thank you. What happens if a military member needs to return urgently due to a family situation? What would be the procedure?
We understand that there might be some family issues at home while a member is deployed, or even an issue with the member that's deployed, and it does happen. We'll do everything we can to bring that member back home. That being said, sometimes like we're deployed very far away on the other side of the planet. It might take a bit of time, but we'll make sure that member comes back if required.
Perfect, thank you. Finally, do you have a message for the families of military members?
Yes, I do. I would like first to say thank you. I understand how hard it could be for the family. I have two young children, I have a spouse. I've deployed quite a bit, and I understand how your support is important and how hard it is on the family. First, I really want to say thank you. Secondly, I would say the most important thing with family that have a member at two wing is to be ready for the eventuality that that member is going to deploy. So I would say be ready for that. Have support in place. Have a plan. There's resources with the MFRC, but take precaution and be ready before that member deploys. I would say that's like one of the most important thing I would like to say.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time, Major.
I would like to thank Captain Alou and Major Menard for their collaboration. This explains a bit why a military member must leave quickly. I really like Major Menard's suggestion that said to make the process easier for those who will experience the absence, it is important to prepare in advance. That is the goal of today's session. We will try to give you some tips to help you prepare for it. As mentioned, you can come to the MFRC for help if you ever need it. The mission of the MFRC is to assist military families with all the challenges they may face. We aim to improve the well being of families and their ability to adapt. We have various services that I will elaborate on later, which can help families in this regard. So don't hesitate to contact us if needed. Our topic today is directly related to our absence support sector. This is part of the services offered at the MFRC for all types of work related absences, whether the military member is away for a course, a mission, or a task, regardless of whether it lasts 2 days or 6 months. We support the family as soon as we know the military member is away. Therefore, before departure, it is important for the military member to come to the MFRC or call us to update their information, inform us of their departure, and let us know which family members they would like us to support during their absence. The MFRC can then support the family before departure by providing tools to help with preparation, similar to what we are doing today by providing information on how to prepare for absences. Today, we will discuss the topic of frequent absences, which can sometimes be rapid and unpredictable deployments. This means that we do not always know when they will occur as they can happen at the last minute. These absences are generally short, but they repeat over time, and there may be little time between the different absences for the same military member. This type of absences presents several challenges, particularly because the schedule of absence is often unknown, making it difficult to plan important events, such as celebrating your child's birthday before departure or organizing vacations. Additionally, the duration of the absences is not always known, which further complicates matters. The main challenges related to these unpredictable absences include the constant disruption of routine. It is difficult to maintain a stable routine when the military member sometimes has to leave and other times is at home. This can create stress, which we will discuss later. The constant need to prepare and adapt can become exhausting for the family and even for the military member. Another challenge is that returns require a great deal of adaptive energy. When the military member returns, they need to reintegrate into the family routine, which often creates instability. Sometimes, just as they have fully reintegrated, they have to leave again. This often leads to conflicts and a tense atmosphere within families. I invite you to reflect on your own challenges. What makes frequent absences difficult for you? What are the aspects that will be beneficial to work on? At the top of the screen, you will notice a small toolbox icon. This symbol indicates that a paper tool is available at the MFRC. You can call us to access it and we can send it to you by email. It's a checklist. This tool allows you to have on paper all the things to check before a departure, helping you stay organized when departures are announced at the last minute. This helps reduce your mental load and prevents your thoughts from scattering. For example, during this period of absence, you may need to renew your mortgage. Since the military member is absent, you might need to arrange a power of attorney. Details like these can be overwhelming, but we have gathered them all in a list. You can request this list from the MFRC to help structure your preparation. I think it's important to take the time to look at the deployment curve, which represents the level of stress experienced by families during a deployment. Here we have the curve of a traditional deployment, which is longer. On the vertical axis, we have the level of stress. We can see that there are two peaks of stress during the deployment. The first peak is at the departure, a little before the military member leaves. The family is more stressed, and at the moment of departure, the stress is at its maximum because of anticipation and the experience of separation. During the absence, the routine eventually stabilizes, which lowers the level of stress and allows for a bit of balance. Before the return, when we know that the return is approaching, there is another peak of stress due to anticipation. We wonder if the relationships will be the same, if there will be difficult discussions, and if the reintegration into the routine will go smoothly. If we have children, we also need to ensure that everything goes well and that the parents are available to adapt to the children's reaction to the change in routine. Thus, there can be a peak of stress at the end. However, when deployments are frequent and unpredictable, the curve changes. What is proposed by the Military Family Services shows a peak of stress before departure, and when the family manages to stabilize, another departure often occurs, forcing the family to constantly readjust. The peaks of stress arrive more quickly, leaving less time to stabilize when between absences, which are more frequent and faster. This means that the level of stress has less time to decrease and stabilize, leading to an accumulation of stress. Sometimes this accumulation can worsen the situation. When we feel that your level of stress is very high, it is important to seek support. This brings me to the topic of stress. It is important to identify your stress signals. Let's take a moment to reflect on how you feel, as frequent absences can put a strain on the family. It is sometimes crucial to recognize when you have trouble sleeping, which is not usual for you. This might indicate that there is something to pay attention to. There are different categories of stress signals. We can start with the physical one. Physical signals include sleep disturbance, decreased appetite, and so on. Cognitive signals can manifest as difficulty concentrating, trouble making decisions. Even the most mundane daily decisions can become overwhelming. This may be a sign of accumulated stress. There are also the social signals, which are reflected in our behaviors, such as taking on many projects simultaneously, immersing oneself in that work, or conversely avoiding usual activities and friends due to lack of energy. Finally, there are emotional signals related to our mood, such as increased irritability or feelings of anxiety. The key is to observe yourself and identify your own stress signals to recognize when you have reached an unusual limit. At that point, it may be beneficial to seek tools to better manage this stress. So, how can you reduce stress? According to researcher Sonia Lupien, stress is a mix of four components. It can be several of these components or just one. Stress occurs when we experience a situation over which we have no control, which is unpredictable, new, or threatens our ego. When in doubt, our ability to handle the situation and fear losing face in front of others. Lupien uses the acronym CINE to describe stress. I prefer to use this approach in reverse. We face when faced with a stressful situation, ask yourself what you can control, what you can make predictable, and retain from one absence to another to reduce novelty. These strategies will help you better prepare for frequent absences, identify your strengths, and how to leverage them. For example, you cannot control your spouse's deployment. However, there may be aspects you can control. At the top of your screen, you see a tool called the Family Emergency Planner, available at the MFRC again. When your spouse is deployed, we send it to you by email or courier. If you haven't received it and are experiencing an absence or will soon, contact your MFRC to get this planner. The planner's goal is to outline the steps to follow in an emergency, who to contact, and note some elements of the family routine. For example, if a military parent must deploy and the other parent needs to go to the emergency room with a child, who will take care of the other children? Instead of panicking, you can consult your family emergency planner, which anticipates the situation in advance. This makes things more predictable and reduces stress. You can also plan the routines of children and even the routines of your pets. If you need to leave for a family emergency, who will take care of your pets? Plan ahead who to contact and what information that person will need. The family emergency planner also includes emergency contacts in line with Major Menard's recommendation. For example, who to contact for childcare or urgent car repairs. Thinking about these questions in advance makes things more predictable. To reduce stress, it is helpful to ask yourself what you can control, what you can make predictable, and retain from one absence to another by using your strength. When stressed, it is also important to release that stress. Stress is an accumulation of energy in the body, initially intended to help us cope with uncomfortable situations. Therefore, it is crucial to release this energy, whether by moving or talking to people. Surrounding yourself with a support network can help both emotionally and practically. Once the stress is released, there are different ways to calm down. Meeting your basic needs, such as eating, drinking, sleeping, and scratching, it is important. By meeting these needs, the body reacts better to stress and you are better prepared to face difficult situations. It is important to schedule time for the rest and leisure, even if it seems difficult when your spouse is absent. Taking 10 minutes for a non productive activity can reduce your stress level and make you more available for other tasks, thus increasing your productivity. This can also prevent conflicts as stress makes us more irritable. Taking the time to calm down allows you to approach daily situations with more serenity. I invite you to reflect on your own methods of releasing stress. Each person has a different way of managing stress, but what is yours? Now, let's talk about frequent absences. One proposed strategy is to measure absences not by the number of absences per year, but by cycles. You could decide that a cycle is like a long deployment of several months with several bonus leaves, allowing you to choose the number of absences in your cycle. For example, one family managed longer deployments better, such as 6 months, because it gave them time to establish a routine and reorganize upon return, reflecting on what worked well and what didn't. This family decided that a cycle of absence included about 8 frequent absences, as the military member left very often. After these 7 to 8 absences, they could discuss what worked well, what didn't, and prepare for the next cycle. At the end of the cycle, it is important to celebrate successes, review progress, and prepare for the next cycle. You can define the duration of a cycle according to what suits you, rather than calculating it by the number of absences. Why measure absences in cycles? It helps plan reintegration instead of constantly readjusting at each return of the military member. In this context, you readjust at the end of the cycle, taking the time to discuss the relationship, established routines, what was effective or not. This reduces the constant feeling of imbalance and helps better manage periods without absences. This brings me to the topic of routines. We discussed what we can control, make predictable, and retain from one absence to another. Routines are an excellent answer to these questions. It is important to have stable routines, especially when you have children. Try to maintain the same routine whether the military member is present or not. For example, the bedtime routine remains the same: dinner, bath, relaxation, then sleep. The idea is to keep the same elements in the routine, sorry. However, it is it is also important for routines to be flexible. If it's always the same parent who if it's always the same parent giving the bath, try to change this occasionally so that the military member's departure does not disrupt the child's routine too much. This also applies to couples without children who want to stabilize their routines. Routines make things predictable, which avoids having to make many decisions at once. When you arrive home in the evening, you don't have decisions to make. You know what to expect and what actions to follow, which reduce mental load. If you have children, maintain realistic routines for one parent, even when both are at home. For example, avoid enrolling two children in different activities that take place at the same time. When you are two, it's manageable, but one parent cannot take them to both places simultaneously. Reflecting on these aspects can make life easier for the parent who stays at home while the other is deployed. Another strategy for better managing frequent absences is to identify your priorities for the current cycle. Ask yourself, what are your priorities? Ask yourself what your priorities are for the upcoming cycle. What didn't work well last time, and what do you really want to focus on this time? For example, you might decide that the priority this time is the mental health of the parent who's staying at home, so they can take care of the children and feel good, especially if it was difficult last time. With these priorities, you can set goals. For instance, to take care of your mental health, you might decide to have some time for yourself once every 2 weeks. Then, find ways to achieve this. Perhaps plan a respite at the MFRC once every 2 weeks, or rely on your support network, family, friends, neighbors, colleagues, to look after your children. Having priorities allow you to set goals and implement ways to make your daily life easier. It also helps you say no to things that don't align with your priorities, as they may be unrealistic at the moment. For example, if your priority is to take care of yourself and your mental health, and your goal is to have time for yourself, you might refuse to babysit your neighbor's children on the evening you had planned to rest. This doesn't align with your current priority and isn't realistic. I encourage you to reflect on your priorities for the next cycle of absence. During the absence of a loved one, it is important to seek emotional support. There are two types of support: Emotional support and instrumental support. During the absence of a loved one, it is important to seek emotional support. There are two types of support: emotional support and instrumental support, which we'll discuss later. Emotional support is crucial because experiencing repeated absences can be really challenging. Therefore, it is essential to talk about it. Discuss it with your close ones, friends, colleagues, or family members. You can also connect with others who are going through similar situations, such as in our parent child group at the MFRC. Every week, parents come with their children to meet other families and share their experience. There are also virtual groups like Facebook groups where you can join other military spouses. The MFRC also organizes social activities, sometimes just for adults, sometimes for parents, to help you expand your social network. If you feel the need, do not hesitate to call us and ask to speak to a representative from the absent sector. During long deployments, we take note of names and contact families to check in. For shorter and more frequent absences, we are not always informed of the departures, which can increase family stress. Feel free to call us to talk to someone from the absent sector. We are here to listen and support you. Think about who can provide you with emotional support during this period, and do not hesitate to reach out to them if you need to talk. It is also necessary to receive instrumental support when experiencing an absence. By instrumental support, I mean all the practical aspects of daily life that can become very burdensome when you have to manage them alone. For example, you could use housekeeping services, homework assistance, or even do your grocery shopping online and have it delivered to your home. This can lighten some tasks, such as meal preparation for the week, a service offered by several companies. By using these services, you relieve yourself of the burden of cooking, which can be very beneficial. Also, if your children or you have activities, consider carpooling to ease transportation. For home maintenance, you can delegate this task to someone or contract a company. Finally, if you have children, you can take advantage of respite services offered by the MFRC or elsewhere. The MFRC offers several respite options, which we will explore later to give you some time for yourself. The idea is to think about the task you can offload during an absence or a cycle of absences to lighten your daily life. Identify the tasks that weigh the most on you and find ways to have them done by someone else. At the top of the screen, you will find a toolbox containing a list of meal resources to make your life easier. This list includes grocery stores in Saguenay that offer online ordering with delivery or in store pickup, as well as places that provide meals for the week. You can place orders online or by phone and pick up the meals directly on site. Several options are available to you. You just need to call the university or send a message via email or messenger to access this list. Families experiencing absences often have a long distance relationship with the person who is away. You are at home managing daily life while the military member is away on duty, making communication challenging at times. However, there are some key recommendations to help ease this challenge. It is advised to communicate as often as possible to maintain the connection between individuals. This advice applies to both adults and children. Communication helps maintain bonds even from a distance. Sometimes it can be difficult to talk, especially for children, but also for adults because it can be emotionally painful. You can try various means of communication, such as video calls, photos, text, or even online games. Teenagers can play online games with the deployed parent, which allows them to talk. The game can serve as a pretext for starting a conversation and often leads the young person to talk about their day. There is also mail. Shipments to military members deployed outside Canada are free at the MFRC. You can come to the MFRC to drop off your package, which will be delivered for free rather than paying Canada Post fees. You can call us or check our website for instructions or and restrictions. Regarding the importance of communication, it is also crucial to have conversations about things that change to avoid surprises upon return. For example, if you have decided to repaint the living room, it will be good to mention it before the military member returns to avoid them being surprised and not feeling at home. This is a very concrete and visual example, but the same applies to relationships. It is important to name things to avoid unpleasant surprises upon return. It is also essential to express your feelings as a spouse and for the military member to do the same to avoid misunderstandings or conflicts. A good tip for improving communication is to acknowledge the other person's efforts, even from a distance. This works both ways. You can encourage the person to recognize the efforts made at home and invite the person at home to acknowledge the efforts of the military member. For example, saying to the other person, "You do a lot for our family, and I know it's not easy for you." Just this can sometimes make the relationship easier. It is also recommended to end calls on a positive note. This way, in the following days, even if you don't have communication with the military member, you can keep this positive idea in mind rather than ending the call on a conflict. Don't be afraid of all the information in this slide. Everything in it was presented before. You can use this slide to take a screenshot as it summarizes the strategies and tools presented today. Before the absence cycle, it is useful to determine the duration of your absence cycle. It is also important to think about what you will do at the end to celebrate getting through this cycle. You can identify your challenges to know which aspects you will need to focus on and what your priorities will be. You can also identify your strengths to use them to overcome your challenges. We also discussed focusing on what you can control, making things predictable, and maintaining consistency from one absence to another. During the absence cycle, we talked about the importance of stable, flexible, and realistic routines. It is important to seek support around us, both emotional and instrumental, meaning practical everyday support. You should also pay a special attention to your communication to ensure you express the important things to the military person and vice versa. The military person can also express the important things to the person staying at home. It is essential to set your goals and priorities to make informed decisions. Be attentive to your stress signals and stay alert to determine if you need more support. You can implement strategies to calm yourself and reduce stress. When the military person returns at the end of your cycle, you can celebrate your successes and take stock. Identify what worked well and what didn't. Most importantly, it is crucial to give yourself time to adapt to reintegration. Often we think everything will be fine once the absence is over, but it can be challenging to reintegrate into a routine as a pair, whether as a parent or as a couple. Sometimes people anticipate the return a lot because they don't really know what to expect. Give yourself time. It takes time to readjust, so it's very important. If after a few weeks of reintegration there are still small details that bother you, that are not completely resolved, and you don't feel entirely comfortable, you can come to the MFRC. We will support you in adapting to reintegration. At the top of the page, I have listed all the tools we discussed today. I want to draw your attention to the relationship planner because I didn't mention it in the previous slide. The relationship planner is a tool that can help you prepare your communication before the absence. It is like a questionnaire for the military person who is going on deployment and another questionnaire for the person staying at home. Each of you will fill out the form and answer the questions individually. For example, what are my expectations regarding our communication? What do I fear the most during the absence? And so on. This allows you to share certain things and put words to feelings to express how you feel about the absence, which helps with better planning. Don't hesitate to ask us for the tools. They are there for you and are really designed to make the absence periods easier for military families. You can call us to request them. I will also talk to you a bit about what we offer at the MFRC and how you can reach us. At the MFRC, you can get all these great tools I mentioned, but you can also receive more psychosocial support. We have social workers, psychoeducators, specialized educators, and youth workers. If you feel you need more support, such as follow up, it is possible. During the absence, we offer support calls to family members who stayed here during a deployment to see how things are going. Don't hesitate to ask us for help. Support calls are not systematically made when the military member leaves for every short periods, and sometimes we are not aware that these absences are repeated. So don't hesitate to request them. We offer workshops and webinars like the one today, and many tools are available on our website. We also provide social gatherings and respite services. Regarding respite, we have the MFRC respite care, which requires mandatory registration. It is like a temporary daycare service. So if you want a half day of respite or to drop off your child for a day during the week, it is possible. The pricing is per day or half day, and it is open during the week. This is an interesting option. If you already have a daycare or are at home and your child does not attend daycare, the respite care can be an option. If you already have daycare and need respite on weekends, note that 2 Saturdays a month in the morning, the Bagotville MFRC offers parental respite. This is a free daycare service offered 2 Saturdays a month. It is really interesting. You can use it during the absence, but also at other times. If you are not experiencing an absence, it is also available. If this is not sufficient or does not meet your needs, you can always contact us to discuss other options. If your children have special needs, we can refer you to other partners who also offer respite. We can also provide you with a list of babysitters in your neighborhood who have expressed their interest in sharing their names. We have other options that can be explored with you. Don't hesitate to ask for them. I'm aware that everything I mentioned takes place during the week and during the day, except for the Saturday respite, which occurs twice a month. However, if you need support in the evening, at night, or on weekends, there is the Family Information Line. It is confidential 24-hour bilingual helpline, so you can use it in French or English. You will find various resources there. Another resource I wanted to mention is telemedicine. Often, families do not have a family doctor. If you have your CF1 card, you are entitled to telemedicine with the MAPLE program. You can register via the link provided here. This gives you access to free consultation with a doctor or a nurse. They can provide prescriptions, request tests, justify your absence from work, etc. This can be really useful for those who do not have a family doctor during the absence. Sometimes a consultation with a doctor is necessary, so this can be an option if you have your card. This concludes our presentation today. If you want more information or if you want us to repeat what I said today, you can always come directly to the MFRC. We are located in the family housing area on the base. You can call us at the number indicated here. You can also reach us on our social media such as Facebook or Instagram. You can also subscribe to our newsletter by requesting it at the email address info@crfmbagotville.com. The newsletter allows you to know about the activities we offer, which are not always recurring, and to get the links to register, for example, for parental respite. Finally, our website contains most of our workshop and webinars. Thank you very much.